Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Design and Influence, where we talk amongst ourselves about problems that we're solving for architects, design, and engineering companies. And those conversations are published, and the intent is to help you with whatever problem you're having. Our deep dives, hopefully, or deeper dives will hopefully kind of help you address, or at least how to approach a particular issue you're having. Today is going to be a treat because I'm personally extremely excited to talk about cloud PCs. They call it, we call it virtual PCs, whatever, same thing. And we did address this 2 years ago. Mark and I did a video on it on YouTube, and we put it on getarchit.com. It was an article, and our sort of verdict at the end of the day was like, hey, they're awesome, but they're expensive. Now, here with me, the two bright ladies from Aurora BIM who you've already met, Megan and Liz. Hello.
Hello.
And bright, not just, because the white background. It's, it's inside the cranium kind of. It's the cranium. All right. And so let's, we just started talking about stuff, and they were like talking about all these cloud PC, they're so good, and we're trying to get architects to use them. Well, we did as well, because there's a lot of benefits, right? I'm gonna let you kind of introduce the reason why you got into it, and sort of what are some of the top. Let's just start off with top 3 benefits right off the bat, so we can get our viewers to keep watching this video.
Sure.
Or listen, whatever medium they're using.
Top 3. Well, when we started Aurora BIM, it was part of our business model because we were a remote company. So it made it possible for us to host a work environment for people that we wanted to come and join us, or even contractors who were partnering with us to work in an environment that we had kind of more control over. We could make sure that like Autodesk licensing was always up to date, and, we could come in and help them really quickly if we needed to. So that's one of the big reasons is just, being a remote company, it has lended itself just to work really well with these virtual PCs. So when we partner with people, they just need a laptop and screens to actually log in and a good internet connection. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, can I also, like, you like teased me on this one, and I said, okay, let's press the record button. You said the one thing that we had this multiple videos on this, and multiple experts were invited to the show to talk about using Revit on Mac. That was always a thing. So you tell me more about that.
Liz, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we kind of stumbled upon that benefit when we were discussing with another potential client who wanted to move from ArchiCAD to Revit. And he casually mentioned, oh, yeah, well, we're all on Macs. I think we have one PC. And we said, oh, but you could just use a cloud PC instead, or a remote PC. So you can keep your beautiful Mac screen and all that functionality. And with the service we use, and I'm sure a lot of them are very similar, just install a little client, a little app on your Mac, and then you go via internet to a PC, do your Revit stuff, and then you can go back to your Mac world without having to install Windows or partition your Mac. So that's a huge benefit, I would say, overall. Yeah. And I follow up with what Megan was saying about our employees and, trying to work with both employees and also consultants all over the world. It's easy for us to spin up as many computers as we need in a very short time. And some people use half a PC. So somebody's working during the day, someone's working at night because of the different time zones, but also some people are using 2 or 3 at the same time because there's some processes that we need to run, like plotting a whole bunch of sheets, and it just takes up the computer. So you can send one computer off to do that task, and then you can continue working in another. So it really increases our efficiency overall.
I bet that's like a superpower almost. I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
On deadline days, like we always have 2 or 3 open. We have one printing kind of in the background, and then the other one, working. And you could sync your Revit on one and then move to the other if it takes a long time to sync, and keep working on the other one. As long as you have enough Autodesk licenses to do so.
That's key.
We do. We have unique licenses for every computer.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to get into cost analysis. Try to do kind of back in the napkin, but give people a real assessment. Because our 2 years ago, our verdict was it's very good but expensive, and the cost of running a normal PC with software support the normal way was still a lot cheaper. That was 2 years ago. Things probably have changed. Than running a virtual PC, but virtual PC was an elegant and exceptional solution. But let's just I'm gonna sort of benefit number one is, did you say was access because you were remote and you needed quick way to partition and then put those together for new people, or what? What's the number one benefit?
Yeah, probably that, or yeah, how the speed at which you can get someone up and going.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
would
you
say
don't have
that
to wait to ship them a laptop and
install
get it
everything.
imaged and actually that's going to be my question to you. When you did your analysis 2 years ago,
Yeah.
did you take into account that time, that extra time of like imaging and getting a computer up and running? I remember it used to take like a week sometimes for like all the bugs to get worked out and all the software to get installed each time you got a new computer and onboarded a new employee.
That is an excellent question. I'm gonna put a pause on this one because I don't remember, to be honest with you. I don't remember the detail. We only, of course, published the part of the video where we cut some other things. I don't remember my deep conversation with Mark because he's an expert on that. Um, but what I can tell you from experience, when we set up new employees for our customers, it does take around, well, it depends. We got to spec out the computer, right? Then we have to make sure that correct access level is established, which you have to do with yours anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to order that computer, and then once the computer gets here, we remotely set it all up with all user credentials and stuff like that. So most of that work, I guess, is very similar, except it does take. Yeah, it was like physical equipment takes a week, but we usually get, like, people know they have employees coming in. But there are cases where somebody forgot to let us know, and then yeah, there'll be a potential delay. But we do have loaners, so for that reason, we have loaners that we ship out next day. But yeah, it's a bit of a process. It's a process.
Yeah. But I mean, also with the physical computer, people can drop them, they can break, they can
Yes.
get stolen. So that's not an issue with these for us.
So let's talk. Let's double click on that. So the way it works, let's just explain to people who may have heard of it but don't understand it. The way it works is all the computing happens offsite in someone else's server room, or virtual for us, but for them it's a physical server room that does all the computing.
Yeah.
Now what they do is they take part of that computing and say, hey, here we go, that's yours now. As long as you have internet, you can access that computing power, you can access that storage, and it's dedicated to you, but you have to pay us X amount of money for that privilege. Is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay.
I
Yes.
mean, there's lots of other benefits and things.
Right. But
Like,
it's, in a
yeah.
nutshell, if somebody is not
Yes.
familiar with what it is, and we're just like, shooting stuff right over their head, I
Yeah.
wanted to sort of make a headshot with this one.
Well, most people have done like a remote desktop. They're at home,
Remote
they
desktop. Yep.
remote into their computer at work. This is very similar. Other than, some of the cloud or virtual PCs use RDP, the remote desktop, or they have their own like proprietary app that you use. And that's the one that we chose.
Let's talk about, or I'm going to ask you about cost. I think we should get into this first, and then
Yeah.
I'll probably surface out some other benefits as we go. So what is your what is a kind of the cost to get one provisioned?
It depends on its capacity.
Sure.
So it depends on the specs of the computer, and you build it basically.
So the same.
Yeah, so it's the same. You kind of get to choose, what do you think you need for this particular employee? And then you add in memory if you need to, you add in RAM if you need to, and it increases the monthly fee as you add in these things. But that's what makes it nice, is that you don't have to commit to a big computer right out the gate. You can say, well, let's try this. And, if it works, great. If they need more, then you just click a button and it gets added to their computer and you have more.
And your credit card gets dinged.
And but at the end of the month, and what's
Sure.
nice about so SoftDrive is the company that we chose. And what's nice is that they are a monthly commitment versus I think a lot of the other companies are not. They require you to commit to a certain number of computers minimum when you start out, and it's not monthly. I think I don't remember, but it definitely is not monthly. Yeah.
But it's instant. So once you set up your requirements, boom, you have a computer essentially, what, 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that we created, they make it for you, and it takes 5 minutes. You just say, I want a computer, and you click the button, and this is the kind I want, and you have access to it within 10 minutes. And then the first computer, you install all of the software that you want. You basically create the image that you want, and you can then save that as a template. And they, do some cleanup, and I did that after I worked on a couple of projects, made sure we had everything that we needed. And now we have like a good template. So now when we want to add another user, 5-10 minutes, they've got a working computer with all the software, everything that they need, and it all runs right out the gate.
Now, what would you estimate for, let's say, an average, let's say someone sitting in an architecture office that's an architect, what sort of monthly cost would satisfy their current needs? Give me a ballpark.
It's hard to say.
You know more than anyone else.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around the 200 a month mark.
Yeah.
Be safe. Yeah. Plus
2
or
years
minus.
ago, the cost of rendering machines averaged about $300 per month. So I think it has come down.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. So 2 to 300, you say. But
yeah, somewhere in there, depending on what you need, right? Like the computer I'm on right now, it's $500 a month, but we're running huge models on it.
Running a rendering machine, 24/7 availability, could amount to approximately $1,300 a month. That was our research 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what a rendering machine would cost. It depends.
No, it depends. But I also would question if that's even necessary anymore, because if you're using Autodesk products, you can render in their cloud.
Render in the cloud, yeah,
with their tokens, and that does a great job. So that's a discussion for another day, maybe. But I don't see that many architecture firms having, like, they used to have like a render PC. That's all it did, was they would send renderings to it and come back in the morning and hopefully they're good. But now I think it's better to go to the cloud. Or I guess if you don't want to pay Autodesk for tokens, you could set up a render PC.
So I know you ladies are super cloud sort of focused, or cloud open, and the other shows we've done, we talked about all the benefits of bridging, all the stuff that don't live right in your in your server room, in your closet. And so that's great. But with that, I'm sure someone wants me to ask you a question, since you, again, as customers of this service, what about storage? Like, because if I have, where are my architecture files, 3-4 years ago, like what about that? How does that factor in here?
Yeah, so you can set it up just like you would an office. So you can have a server, and you would want to do a cloud. You can do a physical server if you wanted to tie it to a physical server in an office, and you wanted these computers to be just additional computers in your domain. You can do that. But I think the best way to do it is to pair it with a cloud-based storage system. We use Google Drive. So we don't save anything locally on ACC, because it I mean, the storage is a monthly cost. So we try to keep minimal data actually saved to the computer itself. We keep them pretty clean. And it's also nice because then, nothing's locked on a computer if someone else is using it. We don't save anything to the computers themselves. And then that means that it's really like easy to switch between computers. All you need them for is the software.
That sounds really cool. Do you know a lot of architecture or some architecture companies who use this model as much as you do, or to the same extent as you do?
Uh,
No, I don't.
Not yet.
Not yet. We keep
I do know
trying.
that I think that there are some of the larger BIM consulting companies that have adopted it, that provide other BIM consulting production services. And I know in talking with the owner of SoftDrive that they have their client base in the AEC industry is doing, like, they're expanding rapidly in there. Yeah.
I mean, this is the way of the future. I mean, let's just face it. That's what's the way it's going to be. But I have some concerns, security concerns. I know there are absolutely, like, what people like this is almost like maybe not even rational, but people want, especially with sensitive architecture, the design files, they want to have a certain level of security that is kind of validated. So they can validate because they're working with Department of Defense, whatever, right? School districts, whatever. And they have certain security requirements that need to be met. And I'm wondering how that is represented with virtual PCs. If those companies can provide the guarantees and the paperwork that
I imagine they can.
showcases that security level.
I imagine that they can. I don't think that they would be doing what they're doing if they couldn't. I mean, everyone's worried about security, right? Everyone has an IT guy background saying, I don't think so.
Right.
Right? Like, I'm pretty sure that it is. I mean, we should get the owner of SoftDrive on here one day. That would be fun.
That would be interesting because I do have a lot of questions.
Yeah, he can answer them. These kinds of questions definitely more than I can. But I know Liz's husband is in IT, and we had a lot of conversations around how to access these computers because I was trying to access them using remote desktop, the actual, let you remote desktop using the Windows version into it. And that was kind of a security risk because then you have to flip that button that says, allow remote desktop into this computer. And then all the security that they've set up out in the front facing application, right? And it's protected. Like, it has, what is it? Where you have to use the authenticator app.
Two-factor authentication.
Two-factor, and you have to log in and verify that it's you and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, from what I can tell, it is very secure. And
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is for a typical user or a company using them. I just don't know if that level of security is allowed for certain type of work that architecture firms do that require a different layer. Whether
is Autodesk Construction Cloud considered secure enough
I don't
for
know.
that kind of application?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, I do
these
know
people. Or sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I do know that a couple of years ago that was an issue in Europe because there were no European servers for ACC or BIM 360. So we had clients who, especially in Sweden, would not allow anything because it needed to physically be in Europe and or in Sweden, like the physical data, which seemed like silly. Is, I guess, Swedish data is better than US data or whatever. Something about passports, maybe. But then as soon as they, Autodesk expanded and had more options in Europe, then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I guess that's fine. But there are projects I haven't worked on, but my colleagues have, where they have to literally go to a special room with a special computer and work there because all the files have to be like, there's a stopgap to the outside world. They can only exist in this one base, and that's the only place they can go and work. So
Yeah. So that's an extreme. That's really,
yeah,
really secure. That's
that's the
DoD
extreme.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
not talking about, there's certain compliance. So there's security compliance. What do they call them? I wouldn't call them benchmarks. I forget
Mm.
what they're called, but they're specific. So like if you're working for a government, it has certain security requirements for all your files. And if you're working for DoD, it's different. And if you're working for something, even more secret, I guess it's like, yeah, you have to bring go in a dark room and code
Yeah.
and not even look at a keyboard, just know what the
We
numbers
would
are.
blindfold you and spin you around 4 times and then push you in a box and
Yeah, spin you around. Yeah, blindfold. But for all the rest of us, this is an incredible technology that I think is gonna get cheaper. Although, now thinking about this whole arms race in relation to building data centers for AI and stuff, I don't know how much computing powers you ladies gonna have left for your little PCs. Everybody wants to run AI on everything.
Yeah.
yeah.
They can share.
Yeah, you think so? Okay.
I don't know.
But I
I mean,
think
what's nice too is you can choose the location as well of your PC so that you're closer to it.
does it matter
It does.
as far as latency? Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk about a couple more things. So, number one, everybody wants me to ask, and I didn't ask. I went all the way on tangent. I was going to ask internet access. Yeah, I know
Mhm.
it's almost always reliable, but not almost is not always. So,
Mhm.
what happens when you having like problems with the internet?
I mean, when we have problems with the internet, we can't communicate with anyone anyways, right? All you've got is your phone
Yeah.
to make a phone call. So you have bigger problems than just not being able to access your computer.
But as an
Get to
architect,
somewhere with internet.
as an architect, may I argue the other side? I'm gonna steelman it. You can still do work in your
Yeah, but
PC.
maybe depends
No, you
on what
can't
the
because you need
work
to have,
is.
yeah, you need to have license authentication. Like if you want to use Revit, good luck if you don't have internet for them to verify your license. Bluebeam,
Yeah.
if you're using Bluebeam Studio, you don't have access to that either. You're kind of dead in the water these days with everything. You used to be able to work on Revit and PDFs, if you were sitting in an office and you still had your, I'm going to say this wrong, probably your LAN connection to your server
Mhm.
and your internet, externally without, you could still work locally. But that's not really the case anymore, at least with remote setups. You lose connection to everyone.
Well, if you're actually asking an architect, get out your pencil and your paper,
There you go.
draw something.
And you can actually access these things from your phone. So if you
Yeah.
have a Wi-Fi, 5G signal from your phone provider, you could still get to your Cloud PC if your internet is out. And you could also tether to your computer and use that too.
Sure.
There's ways.
Sure. There's ways.
Are you
Or you
using
can climb a
SpaceLink?
tree.
Basically,
Climb a tree. Using SpaceLink?
what's
Or,
SpaceLink?
or not SpaceLink? What is this thing
Oh.
called?
Oh, Starlink.
Starlink?
Yeah.
No.
SpaceLink sounds better. No, you're not using Starlink. I'm just curious. But so for normal internet, does it feel like a normal computer?
Yeah.
When you're working it in a normal environment where you have high speed internet.
I
Yeah.
forget sometimes if I'm on it or not on it. The only way I can tell is the little icon that tells
Yeah.
me I'm on my virtual.
And I think a lot of people are a bit nervous to do this because I remember the first iterations of this and it was laggy.
It was
and
slow.
It was slow.
And
It
fuzzy.
was annoying and fuzzy. But now it's just like Megan said, it's like you forget that you're on a different computer than yours.
There
And
you
with
have it.
drafting and, detailing and Revit, if there's any latency whatsoever, I'm a princess. I cannot handle it. And that's it. I actually started working with this PC company specifically and was testing their machines for them and trying different configurations and things that made it crisp and fast enough to actually be modeling in Revit and doing detailing because you cannot have latency. People will not have
No.
that. And you cannot have the like crispness not be there because your whole world is how does it look?
Mm.
So
Yeah. And you said, Megan, before that, to me and Tess, that you had helped also the same company working with, going back to the internet issue, that if the internet is slow, how can you still keep working with,
mhm.
maybe you give up some of the crispness, but you don't get the lag and you don't get the latency, so you can
Yeah.
still work and
Yeah.
Revit
And
or whatever software.
their solution I think is unique in that they allow you to select what kind of bandwidth you're dealing with, and it automatically configures their application and it optimizes your access to the computer. So you can, you can tweak it down to if you only have 2 megabytes per second upload, download, like you could still access it and work kinda if you
Ozzy.
had to.
Kinda.
But like I've actually worked all summer, on I think it was maximum 20 megabytes per second download and like around 2 or 3 up. And I had no problems working on these cloud PCs.
Very impressive. Okay. Well, so I think that's, I think it's important for people to look into it. I think we're gonna look into it a little bit deeper. I think we do have at least one client, maybe a couple, that have some, not all, but some virtual PCs. It's an interesting subject, and I appreciate you, ladies, sharing it with us. Any last minute advice on like, on what to watch out for or how to go about maybe starting this for a larger company? Let's say if I have 50 employees, I'm not going to just jump in, one at a time, or what would you say a better way to start?
I mean, I would start by just contacting the company, and they usually are willing to do like, a trial or you can do a test case to
Mm,
see, they're not going to expect you to buy it right out the gate and have never tried it. Um, I would do that, and then I'd say one other aspect of this that really sold me on it and was actually a problem that I was trying to solve in one of the previous companies I worked for was keeping up with Autodesk updates. This actually allows you to, like, let's say we needed to make a big update or we needed to add in another version of Revit. And, pushing that out to all the PCs and making sure that it's right can take a while. You could actually just delete all your computers, get one the way you like it, duplicate it, and create your whole entire workforce again. And that could take an hour versus trying to push out all of these updates and make sure that everyone's on the same version. And it also makes it easier for, IT to be able to access the computers. You don't have to worry about them being turned off. You could turn them on. Obviously, you have to. You can turn them on through their dashboard. You can turn them
mhm.
on, you can restart them, you can troubleshoot them. You have access to these machines all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So managing from our perspective, managing, the security, the accessibility, the
Everything.
the updates, which is a pain, right? Updates, we do that for our customers, and so we, that I guess that would save us time as well, which will reduce
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a strategy that I was thinking of where, you do just every 2 or 3 months, just delete your whole machine, delete all your machines, create one that is actually up to date on everything and duplicate it. And just, here you go. Everybody's on the same build, for sure. Get all the bugs worked out. You don't have to deal with, and it's not that big of a deal to delete and then recreate a new computer.
Okay,
Very, very like easy to, yeah, work like that.
right on. Liz, any parting words of wisdom?
I
None?
just think it's great that Megan is such a nerd in this. So I
She
didn't
is.
have to be.
He's like, I'm not an expert, but 2
But here's
gigabits here.
everything.
And it's like, I'm not an expert, but like, rendering is not
Yeah.
required anymore because, it's done in the ACC client. And look, like you're an expert. Megan, you're very good. Or-
You.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Pleasure, 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 pleasure hanging out with you again. I think we imparted some wisdom. I've learned something, and I thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
all next time.
See you.
Bye.